The unexpected inheritance. Quinn Harper stared at the document on his datapad as the automated shuttle approached the hulking mass of metal and composite materials that floated against the backdrop of distant stars. The contract was simple enough. For the modest sum of 15,000 credits, nearly all he had left after his dishonorable discharge from the Earth Defense Force, he was now the proud owner of Deep Space Station Epsilon 9. Approaching docking sequence. Please secure all personal items, announced the shuttle's AI in a monotone voice that echoed through the empty passenger compartment. Quinn snorted. Personal items. He had a duffel bag containing everything he owned in the galaxy. 3 changes of clothes, a toolkit he'd smuggled out of his last military posting, and a picture of his sister's family on Mars. He'd lost everything else to gambling debts, legal fees, and the bitter divorce that followed his court-martial. The shuttle shuddered as it connected with the docking port, the clamps engaging with a reverberating clang that suggested the station's maintenance had been neglected for years. Perfect. Exactly what he'd signed up for. Welcome to Epsilon 9, the shuttle AI chimed as the airlock cycled open. Current life support functioning at minimal capacity. Atmosphere breathable. Internal temperature 14 degrees Celsius. Have a pleasant stay. Quinn stepped through the airlock into the dim station interior. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across a corridor littered with debris, abandoned equipment, torn panels, and what appeared to be food packaging from at least 3 different species. "Hello," Quinn called out, his voice echoing through the empty corridors. "Anyone home?" No answer. Just as the seller had promised, an abandoned station perfect for salvage operations. The listing had claimed Epsilon 9 was a former research outpost, abandoned after funding cuts. At this price, Quinn figured he could strip it for parts, sell off the valuable tech, and finally be debt-free. Maybe even start that repair shop he'd always dreamed of running. He made his way to what the station's schematics identify as the command center. The doors were jammed, but a few minutes with his toolkit had them grudgingly sliding open. The command center was a disaster. Panels hanging from the ceiling, shattered displays, and chairs overturned. But the main console still glowed with a faint blue light. Quinn slid into the captain's chair, still intact despite the chaos, and tapped at the console. To his surprise, it responded immediately. System access granted. Welcome, Station Administrator Harper. Quinn's eyebrows shot up. That was easy. Too easy, actually. Military installations had biometric security, and even civilian stations required complex authorization protocols. Yet here he was, granted full access with nothing more than his presence. Computer, run system diagnostics. The screen flickered, then displayed a cascade of information. Life support was indeed minimal, operating at 22% capacity. Power systems at 17%. Communication arrays offline. Defense systems offline. Navigation systems offline. But one system was operating at full capacity. The station's core. Computer, what is the core system? Quinn asked, frowning at the readout. Information classified. Quinn rolled his eyes. Override. Administrator Harper requesting core system information. Genetic verification required for core access. Genetic. What? Quinn rubbed his stubbled chin. Computer, who was the previous administrator? Previous administrator. Princess Nilara Valoran of the 7th House of Astraea. Quinn froze. Princess. Had he just purchased a royal vacation home? And what the hell was Astraea? He'd never heard of that system or civilization, and he'd been to most of the known human colonies and alien allied worlds during his military service. Before he could ask another question, a proximity alarm blared. Quinn's gaze shot to the external sensors display. Warning. Unidentified vessel approaching. Scanning signature. Drakari Dominion warship detected. Quinn's blood ran cold. The Drakari were notorious throughout the galaxy, a militaristic species with a penchant for conquest and enslavement. Humanity had barely maintained an uneasy peace with them after a brief but bloody conflict a decade earlier. Computer, why would a Drakari warship be interested in an abandoned research station? The computer remained silent for a moment, then responded, Epsilon 9 designation is inaccurate. This facility is Royal Sanctuary Astra 7, personal refuge of the Astrian royal family. Quinn's jaw dropped. I bought a royal sanctuary for 15,000 credits. Alert. Drakari vessel has deployed boarding shuttles. Quinn swore colorfully. Computer, are there any defensive capabilities we can bring online? Defensive systems are offline. However, the core can be activated to provide shield capability. Then activated. Unable to comply. Genetic verification required for core activation. Only Royal Astrian DNA or designated regent can activate core systems. Quinn slammed his fist against the console. Of course, because buying a space station can never be simple. The console suddenly lit up with a new alert. Internal sensors detecting unregistered lifeform in secondary storage bay C. Someone else was on his station. Quinn grabbed a metal pipe from the debris on the floor, not much of a weapon, but better than nothing, and headed toward the storage bay. The corridors were eerily silent except for the occasional distant ping of metal contracting in the cold of space. When Quinn reached storage bay C, he pressed his ear against the door. Nothing. He took a deep breath, readied his makeshift weapon, and slapped the door control. The door slid open to reveal a figure huddled in the corner amid storage containers. As Quinn stepped forward, the figure rose. Tall, slender, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly even in the dim emergency lighting. Long, silver hair cascaded down her back, and her eyes, 3 of them, the third positioned vertically in the center of her forehead, were a startling violet. She wore what appeared to be a flight suit of some exotic material, torn and dirty, as if she'd been through a battle. And despite her apparent exhaustion, she held herself with unmistakable dignity. "Who are you?" Quinn demanded, keeping the pipe raised. "And what are you doing on my station?" The woman's 3 eyes narrowed. "Your station." Her voice had a musical quality, with an accent Quinn couldn't place. "This sanctuary belongs to the royal house of Astrea. I am Princess Nilara Valoran, and you, human, are trespassing on sovereign territory." Quinn lowered his weapon slightly. "Princess Nilara, according to the computer, you're the previous administrator." "Previous." Her third eye widened. "Impossible. The sanctuary cannot be transferred without royal decree." Quinn pulled out his datapad and displayed the contract. 15,000 credits says otherwise, Your Highness. I bought this station. Sanctuary. Whatever. 3 days ago. Legal and binding. The princess snatched the datapad, her eyes scanning the document rapidly. This is fraud. Who sold you this?" "Some corporation called Galactic Asset Recovery. They said it was abandoned property." The princess's face darkened. "The GAR is a front for Drakari intelligence operations. They've been trying to locate Astrian sanctuaries for decades." She thrust the datapad back at Quinn. "You've been manipulated, human. And now the Drakari are here to claim their prize." As if on cue, a massive boom echoed through the station, followed by the screech of tearing metal. "They're breaching the outer hull," Quinn said, his military training kicking in. "We need to move. Now." "We need to activate the core," Nilara insisted. "It's our only chance against a Drakari warship. The computer said it needs your genetic verification." Nilara nodded. "Then we must reach the core chamber immediately." "Lead the way, Princess." They raced through the corridors, the sounds of Drakari boarding parties growing louder. Quinn had faced Drakari soldiers once before, during a border skirmish. They were reptilian humanoids, heavily armored, with scales that could deflect standard projectile weapons. And they were merciless. "So what exactly is this core?" Quinn asked as they ran. "The heart of all Astrian technology," Nilara replied. A quantum singularity manipulation device. Its power is significant. Significant enough to fight off a Drakari warship. If fully activated, it could destroy half this system, she said matter-of-factly. Quinn nearly tripped. And this is what I bought for 15,000 credits. Nelara shot him a sideways glance, the ghost of a smile playing on her lips. The greatest bargain in galactic history, it seems. They reached a massive circular door at the end of a maintenance tunnel. Unlike the rest of the station, this section showed no signs of neglect. The door was pristine, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and move as Quinn looked at them. Nelara placed her palm on a panel beside the door. Genetic verification. Princess Nelara Valoran, 7th House, Royal Line of Estrella. The door hummed and began to slide open, revealing a chamber beyond. Inside, suspended in what appeared to be a gravitational field, floated a perfect sphere of swirling energy, blue, violet, and colors Quinn had no names for, constantly shifting and pulsing like a living thing. The core, Nelara said reverently, still intact. Quinn stared, mesmerized by the sphere. It's beautiful. Nelara approached a console near the core. I must initiate defensive protocols. The Drakari will. The thunder of boots interrupted her as a squad of Drakari soldiers appeared at the far end of the corridor they'd just traversed. Their leader, a massive specimen with scarlet scales and yellowed fangs, raised a hand. Princess Nelara Valoran, the Drakari commander hissed. By authority of the Dominion, you are hereby claimed as spoils of war. Your sanctuary is now property of War Master Vexus. That's where you're wrong, lizard face. Quinn interjected, stepping forward. This station belongs to me. I've got the paperwork to prove it. The Drakari commander's reptilian eyes narrowed to slits. A human, claiming Astrian technology. He laughed, a sound like grinding stones. What foolishness is this? Quinn shrugged. Call it what you want. But I paid good money for this place, and I'm not about to let some oversized gecko take it from me. Behind him, Nelara whispered urgently. What are you doing? Buying you time. Quinn whispered back. How long do you need to activate the core defenses? 2 minutes. Maybe less. You've got it. Quinn stepped further into the corridor, placing himself between the Drakari and the core chamber. Look, I don't know what's going on between you and the princess here, but this is neutral territory now. Human territory. The Drakari commander signaled to his soldiers, who raised their weapons. You have precisely 5 seconds to surrender, human, before I have you skinned alive. Quinn's mind raced. He needed a distraction, something to buy Nelara those precious minutes. His gaze fell on a maintenance panel near the ceiling above the Drakari squad. Beyond it would be conduits for the station's fire suppression system. Computer, Quinn called out, hoping the system would still respond to him. Initiate fire suppression protocol in this corridor. Authorization Harper. Acknowledged, Administrator. Before the Drakari could react, ceiling panels slid open, dumping a torrent of chemical foam onto the squad. The suppressant wasn't dangerous, but it was slippery and disorienting, designed to coat burning materials and displace oxygen. The soldiers stumbled, some losing their footing entirely. Quinn used the confusion to slam his hand on the door control, sealing the core chamber with Nelara inside. It wouldn't hold the Drakari for long, but hopefully long enough. Through the small viewport in the door, Quinn could see Nelara working frantically at the console, the core pulsing more rapidly as she did so. The Drakari commander roared in fury, wiping foam from his scales. Kill him. Now. Quinn ducked as energy bolts sizzled through the air where he'd been standing. He needed another plan. Fast. The unconventional alliance. Quinn dropped to his knees and pried open a floor panel, revealing a maintenance shaft below. A trick he'd learned during his days as a systems engineer on military vessels. Without hesitation, he slipped into the cramped space just as another volley of energy bolts scorched the wall behind him. The shaft was barely wide enough for his shoulders, forcing him to crawl on his belly through a maze of conduits and wiring. He could hear the Drakari above, their heavy boots clanging on the metal flooring as they searched for him. "Computer," Quinn whispered, "what's the status of the core activation?" "Core activation at 37%. Estimated time to full activation, 4 minutes, 20 seconds. Not good enough. The Drakari would breach the core chamber long before then. Quinn needed another distraction, something bigger this time. "Computer, do we have artificial gravity control?" "Affirmative. Gravity control functional in all sections." Quinn grinned. "Perfect. On my mark. Cut artificial gravity in all corridors surrounding the core chamber, then restore it to double strength after 10 seconds. Authorization Harper. Warning. Such manipulation may cause structural damage." "Noted. Execute on my mark." Quinn positioned himself beneath a junction where the shaft intersected with another corridor. "Mark." The effect was immediate. Above him, the sounds of surprised screeches and clattering weapons told him the Drakari soldiers were suddenly floating helplessly. Then came the satisfying thuds and groans as gravity returned with twice the force, slamming them into the floor or ceiling depending on their orientation when the gravity cut out. Quinn hauled himself up through the junction and emerged in a different corridor. He sprinted toward the core chamber's secondary entrance, a maintenance access he'd spotted on the station schematics. As he rounded the corner, he collided with something solid and scaly. The impact sent him sprawling backward, and he found himself staring up at the Drakari commander, who had apparently anticipated his move. "Clever human," the commander hissed, looming over Quinn. "But your primitive tricks cannot outsmart a Drakari tactician." Quinn scrambled backward. "Worth a shot. But you might want to worry less about me and more about what's happening in the core chamber right now." The commander's forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air. "The core activation sequence has begun, but it matters not. Once we have the princess, she will deactivate it for us. You seem pretty confident about that." "She will cooperate to save her people." The commander drew a serrated blade from his belt. "The location of Astraea has remained hidden for centuries. The princess knows that if she does not surrender, we will extract the information from her mind before executing her." Quinn's back hit the wall. "No more retreating. You know, for a supposedly advanced species, you Drakari are remarkably predictable, always with the threats and the mind extraction." The commander lunged, blade slashing down toward Quinn's chest. Quinn twisted, the blade grazing his shoulder instead of plunging into his heart. He kicked upward, his boot connecting with the commander's knee joint, one of the few vulnerable points in Drakari anatomy, as he remembered from his military training. The commander staggered but didn't fall. "I will enjoy watching you die slowly, human." Before he could strike again, the corridor filled with a pulsing blue light. Both Quinn and the commander turned toward its source, the core chamber, now visibly glowing through the sealed door. "Core activation at 68%, the computer announced. "Warning. Unauthorized access attempt detected at primary core chamber entrance." They were trying to breach the door to reach Nylara. Quinn needed to get in there first. With the commander momentarily distracted by the glowing chamber, Quinn made his move. He lunged forward, ducking under the Drakari's arm and sprinting toward the maintenance access. Behind him, the commander roared in fury. Quinn reached the access panel and frantically punched in the emergency override code he'd memorized from the station schematics. The panel slid open, revealing a cramped crawl space that led directly into the core chamber. As Quinn squeezed through, an energy bolt sizzled past his head, scorching the wall beside him. He pulled his legs in just as another bolt would have taken them off at the knees, and the panel slid shut behind him. The crawl space was illuminated by the pulsing light of the core, growing brighter with each passing second. Quinn emerged into the chamber to find Nylara surrounded by holographic displays, her three eyes darting between them as her fingers danced across the controls. "How's it going?" Quinn asked, climbing to his feet. Nylara barely glanced at him. "The core is responding, but something's wrong. It's not accepting my full authorization." What do you mean? The Sanctuary has already partially bonded with you as its administrator. The core requires both of our genetic signatures to fully activate. A tremendous boom shook the chamber as the Drakari began cutting through the main door. That's going to be a problem, Quinn said, nodding toward the door. They'll be through in less than a minute. Naylara's face hardened with determination. Then we have less than a minute to complete the bond. She beckoned him to the console. Place your hand here, next to mine. Quinn did as instructed, laying his palm on a smooth panel beside Naylara's blue hand. The surface beneath their fingers began to glow. Computer, Naylara commanded, initiate core binding protocol. Recognize dual administrators, Princess Naylara Valoran. And she looked at Quinn expectantly. Quinn Harper, he supplied. Former lieutenant, Earth Defense Force. Processing. The computer responded. Warning. Cross-species binding has never been attempted. Results unpredictable. We don't have a choice, Naylara said grimly. Execute protocol. The panel beneath their hands flashed brightly, and Quinn felt a sharp sting as something sampled his blood. The core pulsed rapidly, its swirling colors intensifying. Core binding initiated, the computer announced, reconfiguring for dual species control parameters. The main door was glowing red now as the Drakari cutting tools burned through its final layer. What happens when they get through? Quinn asked. If the core isn't fully activated by then. Naylara's expression was grim. The Drakari will take control of the Sanctuary, and with it, the means to locate my homeworld. And that would be bad. It would mean the extinction of my people. The door buckled inward, the metal warping from the intense heat of the cutting tools. Moments later, it crashed to the floor, and Drakari soldiers poured through the opening, weapons raised. Step away from the console. The commander ordered, advancing into the chamber. Deactivate the core now, princess, or watch your human pet die first. Naylara stood her ground, her 3 eyes blazing with defiance. You know nothing of this technology, Drakari. One wrong move and the core could collapse, taking half this system with it. The commander hesitated, his reptilian eyes darting between Naylara, Quinn, and the pulsing core. You would not risk your own destruction. To prevent you from finding my people. Without hesitation, Quinn felt something change in the air of the chamber, a subtle shift in pressure, a tingling across his skin. The core was changing, its swirling patterns becoming more ordered, more purposeful. Core binding at 93%, the computer announced. Anomaly detected in binding pattern. What anomaly? Quinn whispered to Naylara. Before she could answer, the core flashed brilliantly, and Quinn felt a surge of something flowing through him. Knowledge. Understanding. Somehow, he suddenly knew exactly how the core functioned, as if the information had been downloaded directly into his mind. The human binding has created an unexpected pathway, Naylara whispered, her violet eyes wide with astonishment. The core is adapting to your neural patterns. Quinn stepped forward, placing himself between Naylara and the Drakari soldiers. You need to leave this station now, he told the commander, his voice steady with newfound confidence. I'm giving you one chance. The commander laughed harshly. Your arrogance is amusing, human. Kill him. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Quinn was faster. With a thought, a mental command he somehow knew would work, he reached out to the core through the newly formed bond. The energy sphere pulsed in response, and arcs of that same energy shot from it, encasing Quinn in a shimmering field. The Drakari weapons fired, but their energy bolts dissipated harmlessly against the field. Quinn raised his hand, and to his amazement, the Drakari soldiers were lifted off their feet, suspended helplessly in the air. What is this? The commander hissed, struggling against the invisible force holding him. No human possesses such power. Apparently, this one does, Naylara said, stepping up beside Quinn. The core has accepted him as a true administrator. Our technologies have never encountered human neural patterns before. It seems they're compatible in ways we never anticipated. Quinn concentrated, and the suspended Drakari were pushed backward through the doorway. With another thought, energy from the core flowed through the station's systems, sealing all breaches and activating the station's defensive shields. "Computer," Quinn called out, "eject all unauthorized vessels from docking ports and establish a level 10 containment field around the station." Executing command, the computer responded, its voice somehow warmer, more alive than before. "Drakari vessel has been forcibly undocked. Containment field established." Through the chamber's viewport, Quinn could see the Drakari warship being pushed away from the station by an expanding bubble of energy. The ship fired its weapons, but the energy bolts dissipated against the shield. "They're retreating," Naylara observed as the warship's engines flared and it accelerated away from the station. "But they will return with reinforcements." Quinn nodded, the flow of information from the core continuing to fill his mind. "Then we better be ready. This sanctuary has capabilities I don't think even you fully understood, Princess." "What do you mean?" Quinn gestured to the holographic displays, which were now showing schematics of systems he somehow recognized. "These aren't just defensive systems. The sanctuary was designed to be self-sustaining, self-repairing, and mobile." Nellara's three eyes widened. "Mobile. The sanctuaries were never meant to travel. Maybe not originally. But with the core fully activated and linked to both of us." Quinn manipulated the controls with newfound expertise. "We can take this entire station anywhere we want, beyond Drakari reach." "This is unprecedented," Naylara whispered. "The binding has given you access to knowledge even I don't possess." "I think it's because I'm human," Quinn said, understanding dawning as the core's knowledge continued to integrate with his mind. "Your ancestors designed the core to adapt, to learn, to evolve. It's never encountered human neural patterns before, so it's creating new pathways, new possibilities." Naylara studied him with a mixture of awe and curiosity. "You realize what this means, don't you? A human-Astraean alliance could revolutionize our understanding of the core technology. My people have been in hiding for generations, fearing extinction at the hands of the Drakari Dominion. But with this new development, you could come out of hiding," Quinn finished. "Create a new future." "Our future," Naylara corrected him. "The core has bound us together, Quinn Harper. Where this sanctuary goes, we both go." Quinn looked around at what had, 3 days ago, been his simple investment, a means to escape debt and start a new life. Now it was something far more, a bridge between two species, a weapon against tyranny, and possibly the beginning of a revolution. "Well," he said with a grin, "for 15,000 credits, I'd say that's a pretty good deal." Nellara's lips curved into a smile. "The bargain of the millennium, Administrator Harper." As the sanctuary's systems hummed to life around them, the core pulsing with newfound purpose, Quinn realized his life had changed forever. No longer a disgraced ex-soldier running from his past. Now he was the co-administrator of an ancient alien sanctuary, bound to a princess from a hidden civilization, and apparently capable of wielding technology beyond human understanding. The galaxy would never see this coming. "Computer," Quinn said, "set course for the edge of Drakari space, and then—" He glanced at Naylara, who nodded in agreement. "Send a message to Earth High Command. Tell them humanity has just made a powerful new ally." As the station began to move, accelerating smoothly into the depths of space, Quinn Harper, former lieutenant, accidental station owner, and now something entirely unprecedented in galactic history, realized the truth in that old Earth saying, "Sometimes the best bargains come with the most unexpected consequences." The universe would never be the same again.